Welcome to Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne. I am Lorianne Casdia, and our goal here at Healthy Lifestyle is to inspire, educate, and empower you to fulfill a healthy, emotional, spiritual, and physical life so you can feel empowered to live the life you have always wanted and dreamed. Welcome to the show. I'm so happy to be here, as I always am. I am a life and business transformational success coach and strategist, a #1 international best-selling author, award-winning inspirational speaker, and a humanitarian, illuminating, educating, inspiring, empowering, and igniting people to find and embrace their life purpose, live their highest vision, and forge a strong foundation to soar to success. I'm so excited. Today, we're going to give you some verbal caffeine to light up the possibilities with our beautiful guest, Eric Dagati. He has spent the past 25 years as a coach, a trainer, an instructor. Each year, Eric travels around the world teaching and speaking to trainers, coaches, and clinicians. His list of training and consulting clients include individuals and teams from all major sports, from amateur to professional level. And Eric also serves on the advisory board for the On Base University Baseball Health Network and a Raritan Valley College Exercise Science Department. He also appeared in the New York Times bestseller, The 4-Hour Body by Tim Ferriss. Welcome to the show. I'm so honored to have you here, Eric.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Lauren.
I'm so happy to have you here. So, what are the 3 big things when it comes to optimal fitness, wellness, and performance? That's a question that comes up all the time.
Okay. So, and because it comes up all the time, I try to keep it as simple as possible. And I have a little bit of OCD, so I do everything in threes. So I keep it simple and say, look, there's 3 main categories, and then all those big 3, I can dial it down to the most granular level. But the big 3 things, we step back, and it doesn't matter whether you're an NFL athlete, you're a 50-year-old executive, or you're anywhere in between, is that I teach the same principles. It's just a matter of how we execute it is going to be a little bit different, depending on if you have to go onto a pro soccer pitch versus you need to go into a boardroom. The big 3 things are this: you got to move, right? And that's pretty simple, but what does that mean? We can go a little bit more in depth with that, but you got to move. You got to be able to move. And within that, you got to be able to move well. Like, you should be not restricted or impeded by your movement. So you got to be able to do simple things like touch your toes. You got to be able to rotate right and left. You got to be able to reach behind your back and get a coat on. Those simple movements allow you the freedom to do a whole lot of things. And those simple movements get robbed from us over time from sitting in desks and chairs all day. And then once you move well, then you got to move with some purpose. And so that means you have the strength to get up a flight of stairs and not be winded and not have your legs kind of feel like they're buckling. And then you want to be able to move often. You want to be able to have the freedom that if I want to go and go kayaking, if I want to go hiking, if I want to do those things, I'm not impeded by any physical restrictions. And that's really the freedom that we want to give people. So the first bucket is move, with those kind of 3 caveats underneath it. The second one is that we have to fuel, all right? Meaning we need to run on something. And most people think of that as nutrition, which is a huge part of it. So there's not only what we eat, there's also everything that we not just put in our mouths, but our eyes and ears as well. So that includes the people you hang around with, the books that you read, the TV that you watch, what you let in through this thing, through your phone and through social media. And that's going to have a positive or negative effect, no different than eating donuts versus greens, right? So fuel is an important part, and that's what we run on. And the last piece is reset. And this is one of the first things that I teach people when I start working with them, is I ask them a simple question. I say, when we train, do you think we build up or break down? And they'll kind of roll their eyes and they'll say, oh, build up. I'll say, try again. I'll say, break down. And I say, yeah, well, basically the way it works is this simple, is that every cell in our body, all trillion of them that are, turning over every second that we're sitting here talking, they have one job: is to survive another day. And so they adapt. And so if it was cold, we'd shiver to warm up. If it was hot, we'd sweat cool down. Well, if you go lift heavy things like the weights behind me, your body says, oh my gosh, if you're going to keep doing that, I'm going to have to get stronger. I may even build some muscle. If you go out and for a run, it's going to start building more cardiovascular efficiency. So you have a body kind of built for what it is that you do, but the magic's not happening in this room. The magic's happening the other 23 hours a day. And the analogy I use is, all I'm doing here with you is planting seeds. Now, if I plant the seeds on this rubber gym floor, nothing's going to grow. So what I need fertile soil, and you're going to provide that. I can't do that for you. That's going to come from what happens the other 23 hours. And that's part of your reset. That's your sleep, most importantly. It's your ability to down regulate and to shut off, whether that's meditation, whether that's just being able to adjust your states, those sorts of things. That's the reset. So you got move, you got fuel, and you got reset.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Just amazing. I don't enjoy exercising. I enjoy
Most don't.
doing things like sitting there lifting weights is not something that I aspire to do. I find it incredibly boring for me. So what's the best way for a beginner like myself to get started with exercise? So I stay in the game, because it's like, you'll do it. And then it's like, it peters out, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You got to find something that you enjoy, and that's the mistake that people in my industry make. And that's where we fail miserably. 60 to 70% of the people that join a gym will drop out within the first 3 months, because we're trying to sell you on the fact that, hey, I love lifting weights. You should love lifting weights too. And that's not necessarily the case for everybody. And as much as there's some incredible benefits you can get from this, there's people that live thriving, healthy lives to 100 and beyond that never touch a weight in their entire lives. But the elements are the same. They challenge themselves. So whether you challenge yourself in my weight room doing some step ups holding dumbbells, or you go for a steep hike, is there really that big of a difference? Not really. So you could find these activities that you like. Now, it's the principles that have to apply. You need something that's going to challenge your ability to, like I said, to move with some purpose, to have some strength. So that may mean something that you can't necessarily do for a long period, whether that's hike up a big hill, whether that's climbing, whether that's kayaking, whether that's something that you're going all out. I don't care if you dance or if you play tennis, something that you're going to kind of go as close to your peak as you can, and it's going to challenge you to have that ability to move with purpose. Then on the flip side, you got to do something that's going to allow you to move often. And that could be something as simple as a long walk, a bike ride, something of that nature that's not nearly as intense, but you could do it for a while. And it's enough that you probably are just on the fringe of being able to hold conversation, but you're doing some work. And if you can hit those two ends of the spectrum, you have a lot of options available to you. And it's just a matter of finding the right fit for what it is that you like to do.
Yeah, I love to hike. I absolutely love it. It's very challenging. We have a mountain, Mohonk Mountain up here in New York, that I love going to, because there's over 100 different trails. I love the hiking, love kayaking. That's great. Lifting weights, not so much. I know there's benefits to it, without a doubt. But I really, I like those activities where I feel like there's a middle, a beginning, and an end. I don't feel like that with weights. Is there a way for us to kind of get that feeling with weights? Because it would be nice to be able to tone utilizing weights as well.
Yeah. So the first thing is that you got to make it more efficient. And what I mean by that is most people assume that you have to have an hour, which is some kind of number that got plucked out of the air and doesn't necessarily mean the case. So you can get something really effective done in 20 to 30 minutes tops, if not less, depending on how much volume you do. Meaning it's really about training is cumulative, meaning it's not about one rep or one set or one workout. It's about what happens over time. So, whether you did one hour workout or you did 4 15-minute workouts, it kind of works out for the most part the same, unless your goal is really specific. So if you can make it more efficient, so it's more doable, and then you don't have to go to a gym and do it in some special room. You could do stuff at home with either doing body weight or go to a park and do some, stuff on the playground. Do some simple things at home with a dumbbell or kettlebell. You don't need to have a whole lot of fancy equipment or go to a special place, because that's what makes people think that either one, they're self-conscious. I don't want to be in a room with a bunch of people who know what they're doing and I don't. Or it's like, I just don't have the time to go and find a parking spot and then it takes up a huge chunk of the day that you don't want to dedicate to it. But if I said, look, here's 20 minutes, just go ahead in your basement and crank this out a couple times a week, that's a little bit more palatable for most people.
Yes.
So, and that's number one. And then number two is anything you want to get better at in terms of a habit, especially with exercise, is gamify it, right? And like you said, it has a beginning, middle, and end. Well, there's no gamification. I lift the same 10-pound dumbbells every day. And so there needs to be something where you're going to challenge yourself. And there's some interesting research where they showed, let's say if I gave you, and I'm going to give you something everybody could think of, you're just standing there and you're doing some bicep curls. And let's say I told you, I need you to do 3 sets of 10. That's what most people think of, even that's not the magic formula, but just so everybody can kind of wrap their heads around it. And I gave you 10-pound dumbbells. Now, at some point, those 10-pound dumbbells may be really challenging. At some point, they may end up getting really easy. And so the magic of this is to find the sweet spot is what we call the edge of your ability. And what that means is for this to work, I already said, we have to be challenged. You have to challenge yourself or you won't change. But you also need to be successful. So if I told you to go ahead and do 10 repetitions and you grab 15-pound dumbbells and you can only get to 5 before your form starts falling apart and you can't do it well anymore. Well, then you were very challenged. You just weren't successful. But then if you grab 5s and you get to 10 and you're like, I could have done 10 or 20 more. Well, then you're really successful. You're just not really challenged. So I need to get to the point where you get to that last one and you maybe could have done 1 or 2 more perfect ones. And then that was about it. And then what's going to happen is, because of this adaptation, about a week in or 2 weeks in, you're going to notice, you know what, I could have done 2 or 3 or 4. And so the research shows that you can either go and do those extra reps, or if you go up to a 12-pound dumbbell, you're going to get the same result. You're going to get stronger. You're going to add muscle. You just need to have some continuous challenge. And the only way to do that is make sure you're always at that sweet spot at the edge of your ability.
I was just laughing because it reminds me of something about Mary, the 7-minute abs. I could do it in 6 minutes. So I know that I had a personal trainer and they insisted that I do burpees. And I was like, I don't want to do burpees. I just feel awkward. It's uncomfortable. I can't do them. There was a lot of can't. And it was more like won't. So I changed my can't to won't. And then my personal trainer, because I didn't want to do burpees anymore. And that adaptation that you're talking about was more along the lines of what I was more comfortable with and what my body could handle. And so it was moving, I love my kettlebells, love kettlebells. And so moving that, and for some reason, I don't know what it is. What is it, Eric? The difference between the kettlebells and just having the weights? The kettlebells to me are a lot better for me to move. Is it a female thing? Is it just the aerodynamics of it? I just love the kettlebells.
Absolutely not. And so this is why it's important. And part of what I do, aside from coaching individuals, is a big part of what I do is educating trainers. And I have courses that teach trainers how to write programs. And one of the sections of the course is not about how many reps or sets or picking exercises. It's about asking key questions. And if you have a really good coach or trainer, they should ask you those questions. Like, what have you been successful with? What have you not been successful with? What do you kind of like and don't like? And if you came into me as a client, Lorianne, the first thing I'm going to hear, I don't like to work out. And then I think, oh no, what am I doing here? And then all of a sudden now you turn around and say, I love kettlebells. I'm like, I'm going to grasp onto that, because kettlebells are a wonderful tool. They've been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. And there's so much elegance in some of the movements that you could do, whether it's a Turkish get up or a kettlebell swing. So like, I can put together a really good program where I can have you do maybe 3 or 4 kettlebell moves that are in a little circuit, and you're going to hit that for 10, maybe 20 minutes in a day, and it's going to check the box. There's your strength training. Now all of a sudden you're bought in and you love it, because I found the niche. I don't care whether you hold a kettlebell or a dumbbell or a cable machine or a barbell. It doesn't matter. I just need you to be challenged. And so understanding that is the art of what good coaching is. And so if someone's out there and they're looking for a trainer or coach, the way you know if you're finding somebody good is their ratio of questions to answers. We're doing some research for my course. We looked into initial client interviews, and physical therapists that they studied took on average 8 seconds listening to their patients on intake. Oof. And it's like, you're doing this person such a huge disservice. Sure. Like, this person finally got up the courage to change their life and coming to you to entrust their health, and you can't give more than 8 seconds of listening. So I spend more time listening and asking questions than I do giving answers. And then every question I always say, I'm like a little kid, I have 3 whys after each answer to kind of figure that out. And so if you have a coach or trainer or physical therapist that doesn't have that approach, find another one. There's plenty of them out there.
Yeah. Because you said something really, really important is they weren't listening. And again, I do the kettlebells, believe it or not, with yoga, because I love doing yoga. So the second trainer identified what I did like doing and combined them together to do things in a shorter period of time, which also allows me, I travel a lot, allows me to travel and take this with me, so no matter where I am, I can have a water bottle and use that as my kettlebell, if you will, and do whatever it is that I need to do. So the listening is important. You said something so important about making sure that the trainer is right for you, that the coach is right for you, that they're paying attention to what it is you want, as opposed to one size fit all. Coaching isn't one size fits all, right?
No, not at all. What ends up happening is most people go to this gym or sign up for this boot camp or whatever it is. And when they don't have success, they automatically assume that they're the failure. And that's not the case in most cases. Usually it's because you were trying to adapt to that person's program. The best way I can say if a coach or a trainer evolves is get to the point where right now, if you walk in the door and want to work with me, Lori, I really don't care what we do. I don't have a vested interest whether we do mobility work, whether we do speed training, whether we do kettlebells. It doesn't matter. It's just exercises at the end of the day. My whole thing is to get you from where you are now to where you want to be. And so there's a lot of different ways you can get there. I teach a course on how to write programs. I can have a room full of coaches and trainers, and I can put up a case study and say, all right, write a program for this person. And I could get 10 different programs and they're all right. They're all going to work. But one person may use one thing versus the other. And so it's a matter of really knowing how to cater to the individual.